I was at a space of complete duality in my life. I was back in a place that I used to call home that was feeling so unfamiliar. I felt like a stranger in streets that I used to feel comfortable. I felt like an outcast in my friendships. I felt like everybody was reaching for a version of me that no longer was, instead of trying to get to know who I am now. It no longer felt like home. And at the same time, I had made a decision that I was going back to the place that felt the most home I've ever experienced in my life. So I had this dark cloud around me still. I still felt this level of discomfort I hadn't in a long time. But in the same breath, I had a glimpse of that light. I remember being overwhelmed with shame and guilt at this time because I was back in the city where I was once the worst version of myself. I had destroyed so many relationships and I just wasn't a good person. And now I had to face all of those memories once again. I even started going to therapy at this time because it got really dark. I really needed somebody to talk to. And I was still on crutches, living on the third floor, unable to work. But keeping my eye on the price of getting back to Thailand. Eventually, I got put in the boot and out of the cast, which means I could be a little bit more active. I think this is when I started to get my spark back. When I got put in the boot, I started immediately going to the gym. I couldn't fully work out, but I allowed myself to do upper body and just got out of the house. Allowed myself this time to move some of that stuck and stagnant energy. And it lit something in me. I started to get my spark back. I was journaling, I was meditating again. I was doing all the things that helped me ground. I started making a vision board and I had things like moving back to Thailand by Songkran, which was April 15th. I had getting my VA benefits sorted because I had been out of the Army for quite some time and still hadn't taken care of that. I also wrote on the vision board that I would gain 70% in my benefits. I wrote that I wanted to book another speaking engagement and many other things. Now I was getting clear about my vision. See, I had committed to going back to Thailand, but I had no clue how. Eventually, my foot started to heal and get better and I could put more weight on it. So I started applying for jobs. Then I remembered that I had this connection from the Boys and Girls Club Metro South. The person who booked me for my speaking engagement and bought 100 copies of my book, Kalia's Journey to Joy. I reached out to him and he said, for sure, come in and let's talk. If you need a job, we'll find one. I was hired on the spot. A few weeks later, I started working. And it was at the Boys and Girls Club that I realized I had it all wrong. You see, when I made the decision to come back to America, I had convinced myself that I wasn't making an impact because I was so far from my community. But working at the Boys and Girls Club front desk, I got to see parents of kids that were my followers, parents that I went to high school with, people who knew the worst version of me and got to see my journey. So many of them told me that I was the hometown hero and that getting to see me live out my dreams made them believe that one day they could do the same. I didn't realize how much hope I was providing for my community. And it made sense, and it got even more clear for me that I was meant to go to Thailand. And me being there allowed me to be a beacon of light for others. I only worked at the club for about a month and a half until I came home one day after work and had an email waiting for me. It was from the VA. I had applied for my benefits on January 4th, which was also my mother's birthday. And it had been about 2 months. I didn't think this was anything because normally the VA takes years to solve claims. But I opened the email and it said, your case has been resolved. I was nervous. I remember my heart was beating so fast. My palms were sweating. I couldn't even type to get into my account. When I finally did, it said, congratulations, you have been approved and rated at 70%. This was the missing piece. A lot of the problem I had when I was in Thailand the first time was finding an income that was stable. With these VA benefits, that meant every month, no matter what, I would have some type of finances coming in. I remember being so excited and thinking out loud, I'm magic, I'm magic, I'm magic. Because I literally wrote on my vision board, not even 2 months prior, that I was gonna get 70%. And I got exactly that. I should have put 100. I remember calling my aunt and telling her the news, and calling my friend Jen, who was also a veteran who I served with, who was the one who convinced me to do this in the first place. I literally booked my flight back to Thailand that day. I knew that that was where I was meant to be, and having the money meant I could go and figure the rest out. But also I had the tools and the education to do it better this time around. I was so excited. I spent the next 2 weeks going to doctor's appointments to make sure my foot was ready. I went to the dentist. I got all my checks done. So I knew I was healthy and ready to go back home to the people I love. But I also spent time with the other people that I loved back in the States. And the day finally came. I was overwhelmed with bliss and joy and gratitude. I knew that any rock bottom I experienced was just a clean slate, an opportunity for me to be made anew, an opportunity for me to grow. So here I go again on a 23-hour flight to Thailand, but this time is different. I love myself. I have the tools to make this last, and I'm doing it for myself, by myself. Financially, mentally, emotionally, this time it's all me. I have a family waiting for me on the other side, and I'm no longer leaping into the unknown. I'm leaping for the first time in my life towards something that I know is for me. And I believe I deserve it. I believe I'm worthy of it, and I'm loving the life that I'm living. You see, this is where choice number 9 comes in. I made the choice to no longer allow the pain of my past to dictate and create my path. I released the trauma, I released the story, and I started to rewrite it. I created the life of my dreams when I decided to fully choose me, show up for me, and water me.